The Jump, and now he's on at the Palace Theatre here in Manchester as Joseph, along with his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I had a chat to Joe McElderry yesterday, and I said Joseph first came out 35 years ago, way before Joe had even been born.
Yeah, not even close to being born, actually.
So when you were first introduced to Joseph?
Well, I remember they always used to do it at school. And I remember they did it in senior school. I was probably about year 8, and I got asked to audition for it. But I was mortified by the thought of singing then in front of people, and I was like, absolutely not. And they were like, oh, go on. And I was like, nah. So I wasn't in it. I remember all my friends were in it, and I refused to be in it because I was too shy.
What? That's unbelievable, isn't it? Looking at where
It's
you
madness.
are now. So you were too shy to sing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't start singing until I was probably about 14, 15, and previous to that, the thought of standing up in front of an audience or school friends or anything like that used to literally, I'd just be like frozen. And then all of a sudden it just kind of naturally happened that I would watch clips on the internet of people singing, and I would kind of mimic what they were doing, and then go to local karaoke nights and local charity nights, and eventually I found myself in front of loads of people and enjoying it, and I was like, oh, how did this happen?
Yeah, big time, loads of people. Quite a few million people on X Factor, because I was trying to work out, when was X Factor, your X Factor?
2009.
Yeah, it's quite a long time ago, isn't it?
Six and a half years ago, yeah.
And since then, tell me about pop star to opera star, because that was really a real change of direction.
Yeah, it was, and again, I think a lot of the things that I've done in my career, I do because I think I can have fun with it, and I can, learn something from it. So it's never really necessarily been like, right, I'm going to do that and then I'm going to release a classical album. That all kind of happened quite naturally. And I found I was enjoying the music, people were enjoying me singing it, and then I got asked by Universal, and they said, listen, we really think that you could release a classical crossover album. And at the time, I was like, who is going to buy that? Everybody's going to think it's a joke, And they're like, no, you can really do it. It sounds really good. And then this was still while the show was going on. And they were like, you could really, put your hand to it. People would enjoy it. And I did it thinking, oh my God, this could go one of two ways. They're flop and nobody could buy. But it's been one of my biggest selling albums. It was incredible. And I learned so much. For example, doing a show like Joseph, the techniques I learned on that show were you couldn't even pay for that kind of training. It's just the stamina that it gave me voice, and it also opened my range about 2 octaves as well. It was just brilliant.
So this is incredible when you think about that little boy who actually wouldn't sing on stage, wouldn't even go in the school play because they were too frightened, and yet here you are. So have you had singing lessons over the years?
No, not really. I mean, I had trained on Pop Star Opera Star, and then I never have singing lessons for my own stuff. I just never have had them. Not that I think there's anything wrong with them or anything. I've never kind of had them. But when I was on X Factor, the vocal coach Evie, she said, you sing the completely opposite way to how I would teach somebody to sing. She said, but it sounds so good and it's in such a safe place in your voice. I'm not going to teach you a different technique. She was like, I don't know what the technique is that you're using. She was like, but it's actually working better than people's technique that I teach.
It's just the Joe McElderry technique.
And I was like, I don't really know whether that... She was like, that's totally a compliment. She was like, it's nothing for you to worry about. She's like, I'm just not... She's like, I'll tweak a few things when we're going through the show. She's like, but I'm not going to teach you a new breathing technique. I'm just going to let you do what you do.
Joe McElderry there. More from him on the way. He talks about The Jump. He talks about X Factor. He tried X Factor twice. Obviously, the second time he was very, very successful. In fact, couldn't have been more successful. And he talks more as well about pop star to opera star. BBC Joseph in Manchester at the Palace Theatre in Manchester. We know him from X Factor. We know him from The Jump. He won that as well. And he told me, you've just heard him talking about it, he never had singing lessons before he appeared on the X Factor. When he took part in Pop Star to Opera Star, he was really put through his paces.
They were really tough on that show. I mean, the first day of rehearsals, it was like being at an army boot camp. They were like, right, forget everything you've ever learned, blah, 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 blah. You're going to start from scratch, and we would be singing a bit, stop the piano, what are you doing? Breathe properly, blah, blah, blah. It was like full on regimented. But Rolando Villa's on, who was one of the judges, and he's one of the most famous tenors in the world, and he said you should go to classicals college and learn, but it takes 10 years. It was like, it'll take you 10 years, and I was like, unfortunately I don't really have the time, you know, as much as that would be incredible. I said I can't really step away from the career that I've got now, you know, and to do that I would have to go into full-time college, and it just wasn't really something that would have worked for us. But it was, I mean, again, massive compliment, you know. But 10 years, I mean, it's longer than a doctor, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Yeah.
Who knew it took so long? And then, of course, from the sublime to the ridiculous, then there was the jump.
Yes.
And were you uninjured?
I was uninjured. I went in really last minute.
Yes.
A friend of mine was one of the producers on the show from X Factor, and I was actually in Austria at the time on holiday. She heard I was there, and basically they literally ran out of people to be on the show. Yes. So she said, "Do you want to be on it?" And I was having about 2 months break, just kind of having a bit of time off, going on holiday, chilling. Third day into the holiday, and they were like, "Can you come like 40 miles down the road?" So they spoke with the management and sorted everything out, and next thing I knew, I was flying down a mountain at about 80 miles an hour. But I had no injuries. I was like black and blue with bruises, but nothing like long term.
There were all sorts of awful things this time round, weren't there?
Well, there is, and you know, there was so much controversy around it. But I said, if you actually just break it down, if you look at skiing as a sport, it's just a dangerous sport, you know. And if you've got 10 celebrities that are all competitive, you know, in their own fields, coming together, trying to show off in front of one another, you know, as we all do, you're gonna, and you've got cameras there, you're gonna capture injuries, you know, it's just a natural thing. I don't think it was anything to do with the show. I think it's just, winter sports are just dangerous.
Have you continued with winter sports?
Well, I did it before, and I go every year. I went literally, I didn't tell anyone, I kept it a secret. I went a week before this started.
Oh, did you?
But I knew everybody would be like, "No, you're not going."
Yes.
So I snuck off for a little week's.
Are you allowed? Do your management allow you to? Because
Well,
you know, if you break something, you can't go on stage every night as Joseph, can you?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of are allowed, and it's one of them things. There's not a definite thing, but I think if you told everybody you were going, then they'd be like, "No, you're not." So I kind of just don't tell anyone. I'm like, "Oh, I'm off to Tenerife." And then
Much safer.
Selfie on the mountain in the snow. They're like, I don't think so.
So how's it going? How's Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat going?
It is so much fun. It's honestly, I'm really, really enjoying it. It's I didn't really know what to expect because musical theatre was not my thing. You know, I kind of went straight on X Factor, and it was all kind of pop, doing the opera, everything. I think people have this kind of idea that I've come from a musical theatre background, but I actually haven't. And I didn't know what to expect, but I'm genuinely having the best time ever. The audiences are just insane, you know, like up on their feet, clapping along, singing along, which is nice for me because I still feel that concert vibe as well, you know, that I would miss if I didn't have that. And the music, you know, everybody loves the music. Nobody can stop singing it after they hear it.
And what about the touring?
Yeah.
You know, the going from city to city, town to town. How do you cope with that?
This tour is actually easier than when I do a tour because I only do one night in every place. We're in most places for a week. So I find that I'm getting to see a lot of places more so than when I do my shows because I normally just live in dressing rooms. You know, you got to sound check, get ready, meet and greet, show, off you go to the next town. We get to like stay in the places, you know, and you get a morning, you can go out for a coffee in the town, and it's been really. And I love Manchester. Literally, it's one of the only cities I would ever consider moving to.
Why do you love it?
I've just always. I auditioned here for X Factor, so I spent a lot of time here when I was about 16, coming back and forward to the auditions, and I was here for like a week at a time, and then I'd go away and come back, and because you know you go through 4 or 5 auditions, and I've just always loved it. I've always loved the hustle and bustle of it, and it's like a big city, but it's got that small town feel to it, which I don't think a lot of cities have that. You know, it's got that northern kind of community feel, which I like.
Oh, yes, saying all the right things, Joe. Yes, we like it too. I didn't realise that Joe McElderry had auditioned for X Factor twice. Obviously, the second time he was very, very successful. In fact, so successful that he won it. But first time round, when he was very young, and you'll hear the story of that actually, after 2 o'clock this afternoon, Joseph and his... in Manchester at the moment. Joseph, by the way, has been going for 35 years, started long before Joe was born. He's already told us how much he loves Manchester. He auditioned for X Factor here and got to know our city really well. But I hadn't realised that when he won X Factor, it was actually the second time that he'd been involved.
I went in when I was 15, and I auditioned I was at the Lowry then, in the rooms, when they used to do it in the rooms. And I got through the boot camp, and I just freaked out. I was like, oh my god, this is not... There was all the cameras and everything. I'd never experienced... Like, it was like what I was saying about stand up in front of people. I don't think I was quite ready. And I just was like, nah. And I was like, I can't do it. And everyone was like, oh my god, I can't believe you've left. You'll regret it. It'll be the biggest regret you ever had. And I thought, why do something just because it's the X Factor? Why put yourself through that torture if you don't feel ready? So I stepped back, I took a few years out, and I actually said at the time, I'll never do that again, because I found it mortifying, actually. Nothing to do with anything that the show was doing, I just found it quite, like, claustrophobic.
But 15 is young, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my god, I was literally like shaking going on the stage, and it just wasn't right. And I went away and, did local gigs and built my confidence up slowly, and then went back, and I kind of made a pact with myself that if you go back the second time, you can't walk out, so you have to stick with it. But I did enjoy it anyways. I didn't have that problem.
Weren't you at that kind of time working as a dishwasher?
I was.
And sort of getting on stage and doing a bit and then going back and finishing off the dishes in a restaurant?
So while I was at college, I worked at a local theatre called the Customs House, and they had a little restaurant at the back, and I was the dishwasher. And they used to do these like candlelight suppers and Christmas concerts. And I used to wash the dishes, wash the main course meal, and when they put the dessert out, I'd put a black shirt on, out of the little white t-shirt and the apron, go out, sing a half-an-hour set, put the white shirt back on, and wash the dessert plates that I just sang as they ate.
You were a cheap turn.
I was a bit, because I used to get paid as the waiter. But the funny thing is that I now go back there for my concerts, and it's really strange, like going back to where it all began. And I think we're doing like 4 shows there in the summer, and it's just amazing how, I always think in them moments that those moments are actual crucial points in your life and career, and I think you never realise it at the time, but I always go back to them moments now when I'm doing certain things now, and they're always the kind of standout moments, but you never ever think that they would be, like when it's happening.
What are you going to do next? Is there more musical theatre?
Well, I've got a bit of a break in the summer, and then I'm going out on my tour, which is called the Northern Light Tour, travelling around the country again, just my stuff, new material. I think the closest one we're doing here is probably Stockport. This has definitely made us want to kind of explore the rules 100%, so we'll see what happens.
Have you got a dream role? You could tackle something like Les Mis, couldn't you?
Yes, I mean that's obviously the pinnacle one, I think, for most musical theatre boys. I'd love to do like a modern day Grease, where it's a brand new story but the same kind of idea with new music and stuff. Because I feel like my generation, we had Grease, but we've never had one of our generation, that's going to stand the test of time. I'd love to do something like that. That would be fun. But if anyone who can write it's listening, give us a ring.
Joe, lovely to see you. Enjoy the rest of your week anyway here in Manchester.
Thank you.
Thank you.